All right, YouTube, it's NSA time again. Everyone was sort of expecting it to die down because there hadn't been new revelations for a time. Now Snowden's leaked more information. The number of people who claim he's a traitor has dropped dramatically. I've noticed it already over the last 24 or so hours. The number of people claiming that he's basically the savior of this country seems to have skyrocketed. It's now come out, not only did the NSA spy on Angela Merkel, who's of course the German chancellor or president, or I'm not sure if they still use the title chancellor after the one that we all prefer not to talk about. Um, but also spying on the leader of Spain, spying on Brazilians, spying on basically all of our allies, all of our key allies. It's one thing when the government conducts surveillance on a state like Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, some backward state of no real key strategic importance other than making sure they don't sponsor terrorism and maybe getting oil from them. It's totally different to basically slap our key allies in the face, the British, the French, the Germans, basically most of Europe, some of the South American states, some of the Asian states. These are key allies. These are countries that really legitimately would never fuck us over. It would take an enormous amount of benefit to them in any deal in which they would do so. The British and the Germans and so forth, they have really been completely on our side since, in some cases, World War II or the Cold War. Why are we spying on these people? This is almost more concerning than, I mean, we all know the NSA is collecting every piece of email, every phone call, every Skype conversation, and basically everything you do on the internet, and probably things, I'm sure they've got key loggers on people's computers too, so they can see what they're doing offline as well, which is concerning in and of itself. It's blatantly unconstitutional. Obama should have already been impeached for this. It's clear that he should have been impeached. The NSA should already have been abolished, or at least extremely reformed. The Supreme Court should take up a case declaring this blanket surveillance unconstitutional. Secret courts issuing warrants should be unconstitutional. It's clear this was not the intent of warrants being issued to search people's property and so forth. It was never the purpose in allowing that. But this is even worse, arguably. Not only are we basically giving the government the go-ahead to conduct surveillance on every population with access to the internet, now there's actually spying on these foreign leaders and tarnishing the reputation of the United States abroad. You don't want to piss off your allies in this way. I'm not sure what he was thinking. It says right here, report, White House stopped phone tapping of foreign leaders this summer. Okay, that's great that they stopped it. You'll notice how this summer sort of coincides with, oh, by the way, Snowden's got all of this information that he's going to leak to the public, and they hadn't even leaked it yet, and mysteriously the White House stops it. That indicates to me that the White House knew at least that early that this was going on, probably earlier, and didn't stop it until it was clear that the lid would be blown off of it. This indicates to me that Obama knew full well this was going on, that he's lying when he says he doesn't know that this was going on. It's extremely troubling. The NSA is not performing any sort of legitimate function. And look at link number 2. Guess who's defending the NSA? Dick Cheney. One of the ultimate scumbags that's ever held a higher office in this country is defending this program. Considering how unpopular Cheney was, even amongst Republicans, should tell you something about what the NSA is doing is very, very wrong indeed when one of its main backers now is Dick Heart Attack Cheney. Dick, I shot my friend while hunting accidentally Cheney. Dick Darth Vader Cheney. The fact that he would give a reach around to Obama across the aisle on this issue just proves how fucked up it is. People need to be, thankfully, finally, people are starting to, in real life, rather than just trolling on comment boards, protest this. Thankfully, people are kind of starting to, I've seen several people on CNN who I know are Democrats, fairly die-hard Democrats who I remember from the election, some of the posters there that are there every day, that were defending Obama up and down during the election, saying, you know, it was Twit Romney and how bad he was and how much they supported Obama. They've abandoned him. They're saying, well, we can't defend him anymore. How long is it going to take before the Congress does its job and represents the interests of the American people? Because this is not representing our interests. We didn't ask for blanket surveillance. Nobody was asking for blanket surveillance. Nobody had a problem in the aftermath of 9/11 with them monitoring terrorists or perceived terrorist threats. Nobody had a problem with them conducting surveillance on the Pakistanis or the Iraqis or any of these groups because we were embroiled overseas. And you can argue over whether it's still ethically right, but nobody really had a problem with it in the mainstream. Now we're simply conducting surveillance on the entire population, including, lo and behold, all foreign leaders. This is Watergate on steroids. The reason being, when Nixon, during Watergate, presumably ordered, you know, his goons to wiretap the DNC, everyone in the media was up in arms. Everyone in the public was up in arms. Yeah, we need to force him out. He's a dangerous, terrible person. We need to get rid of Nixon. Impeach him. And he got impeached. Not only is Obama wiretapping the offices of every political group in the United States, and presumably every political group in the Western world at large, he's also got access to everything else. The NSA has become so large and swollen with funds and technology that there is no piece of email on earth that can escape this system, apparently. This is much worse than Watergate. The last time anything on a roughly similar scale happened, the president was impeached and resigned. But I hold out hope because, like with Watergate, where the news broke in 1972 at first, early in 1972, and it took until 1974 for him to finally resign, it hasn't even been a year since Snowden's revelations occurred. The hope is that before Obama is capable of leaving office and drawing his substantial pension, he will be kicked out of office. I don't say this as a Republican. I don't say this as a Tea Partier. I don't even say this as a states' writer or a racist or any of these other things. I say this as a person who understands, number one, these programs are unconstitutional. It's only a matter of time that they're declared unconstitutional. Essentially, you simply have to wait for a lawsuit by someone who's been put in prison because of this surveillance, and they question it and they say, well, in court they wouldn't tell me so I could face my accusers. Well, that's unconstitutional. Clearly it is. So it's being misused even further than it originally was meant to as well. It's only a matter of time before somebody launches a lawsuit and the Supreme Court shoots down blanket surveillance. It is only a matter of time. It should have already been in the works. Somebody already should have taken up this case and put it forth to the Supreme Court. And there are 5 conservative justices on it. Of course they're going to declare it unconstitutional. The American people need to do more as a collective. From even something as easy as bitching online, at least, you know, keeps it up in the Twitter and everything else. People need to be aware that this program is unconstitutional. If you read the Constitution, you don't have to loosely apply it to understand this. It is illegal, what's being done by the NSA. Clearly, it's illegal. Obama clearly knew that this was going on and was more than happy to say, oh yeah, in retrospect, he said this, I believe, a couple days ago. Oh yeah, you know, we were spying on Merkel. I shut that down this summer, though, don't worry. Then it turns out, and maybe he didn't know that Snowden knew this, that, by the way, it's more than just Merkel. And at first he gave a half-hearted denial. Oh, we were never spying on Merkel. We would never do such a thing. But he did. And we know that it happened. Obama lied to the entire world when he denied that we had spied on Merkel. And then he admitted it but said, oh, well, it stopped. It was only once or twice. Don't worry. And then it turned out, no, it was for years and years, and it was all of these different leaders, and now all these people are pissed off. And you see the drones and the paid posters online. They're saying, well, it doesn't matter, all countries conduct spying. Yes, every country commits spying and espionage. They don't generally do it to their allies. They don't do it to their allies. They certainly don't wiretap the phones of close allies' leaders and representatives. It doesn't make any sense. He had to have known that eventually, by hook or by crook, if it took 1 year or 10 years, the people in the White House should have known. Bush should have known this too, because the NSA was conducting similar surveillance under Bush. It was more limited, but it was still there. They should have known that eventually a disgruntled employee, a whistleblower, an employee's wife, somebody would come forward and spill the beans about what was going on. They had to have known. They can try to keep it under wraps all they want. Essentially, you have to be left with this impression, that Snowden leaking this and everything else that's gone on was an example of extreme blundering, not just by the White House, by the way, but by the NSA itself. Because the NSA has come out several times that, oh, this isn't going on and that's not going on, and then we find out it is going on. And you have all of these officials from the NSA, from the White House, and from all of these other agencies and congressional leaders coming out and lying to the press, lying to the people. The only reason why Obama's impeachment hasn't already begun is because with Watergate, the press largely didn't like Nixon to begin with. He was far right. They didn't like him. So they went on a witch hunt to begin with. And they dug for the information that then sunk his career. With Obama, until very recently, until the last few days, most of the mainstream media has neglected to report on continued revelations by Snowden. I think Snowden is a genius. I think he waited and gave a little bit of a grace period to release the bigger chunks of info. Everyone knew he had more info and that it was more damaging than what he had before. The opening volley was simply expose the fact that the NSA's doing a lot of online spying. That gets all of the young people upset because they're all online all the time. The next step is, oh, by the way, and waiting, of course, until the person who headed the NSA, I believe, is in charge of it. No, that was the IRS. Never mind. Waiting until there's a little bit of accountability anyway, and people are up in arms asking what's going on. Let the NSA hang itself by giving them time to come out and say, well, don't worry, it's no more intrusive than that. We're only collecting metadata and a few emails. Don't worry about it. Then Snowden says, launches another volley. He releases more info, and people up in arms again. They're like, well, you told us that it was just metadata. Now it turns out it's, transcripts and all of this stuff, and they're caught in their own lie. What Snowden seems to be doing is duping the White House and the NSA into hanging themselves, essentially, by giving them sort of breathing periods in between releases of info. And so far, for some bizarre reason, the NSA and Obama have fallen for it hook, line, and sinker. Because what they've done is they continually come out, because I think Obama at this point realizes his career's in real jeopardy. Because he comes out, and what can he do? People are up in arms, he has to say something. The only thing that's going to prevent them from continuing to be up in arms is it's either it's not going on, I didn't know, or yes, this is happening, but I promise you this is the end, and nothing else is going on. Snowden's going to come out with even more revelations. He might come out with one tomorrow that'll make this one seem small. He's putting it out in little digestible increments, just like a person should if they really want to screw with the government. I applaud Snowden. At first, when he came out with this material, and everyone thought it was just phone metadata and foreign correspondence through email. I said I didn't consider him a patriot, or I never said I considered him a traitor because he's a whistleblower. And Obama made clear when he was running that he respected whistleblowers, so he lied about that too. Obama is the liar in this, not Snowden. And I said I didn't really consider him a patriot because he was simply exposing something that was going on, but he hadn't taken any specifically heroic action because what was going on, while questionable, while bad, was not so questionable and bad that it's Watergate level and it can be reformed. It can be done away with. Congress might take care of it. Public action might take care of it. Obama might even have a change of heart and defund the NSA for all we know. It became clear that that wasn't going to happen, that Amash made a good attempt. Unfortunately, didn't actually work, but he made a good attempt, so Congress sort of woke up for a while. What we have now, we have Sanders, who, by the way, is very far left. Bernie Sanders, from my own great state of Vermont, is coming out and saying we need severe reform of the NSA, and that was before this revelation, too. I wonder what Sanders is going to say now that he realizes we are endangering our relationship with most of the rest of the developed world right now. These are our military allies. These are strategic trading partners. These are essentially states that if we were to get into a major conflict, they would have our back. And we've betrayed them. We've betrayed, as a country, the people have betrayed these other populations in a way too, for not forcing the government through outcry to do away with such programs. And Obama says, don't worry, we've stopped doing it. Bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. The thing is, what Obama's probably banking on is there won't be another whistleblower because we've really cracked down. So now we can do it and nobody will think that we're doing it because everyone will trust me because I'm such a popular, hip dude. Obama gets away with a lot more than Bush because he's well-spoken and he's younger. He doesn't seem like the old prune-like white short dude who at the party either wears the lampshade and is drunk or falls out a window. He seems like the smooth dude who's on the dance floor having a great time with a glass of champagne. So Obama gets away with these things in the media because the media likes him. But they're quickly losing faith in Savior Obama because now it's clear, by the way, Obama's goons attacked the press too. How many allies does this man have left to back him up? And it's not, again, it's not just Obama either. I'm not simply saying, well, the Democratic Party is responsible. The Republicans are too. Because there are Republicans on the Security Council. Because the majority of Republican congressmen didn't vote for the Amash Amendment. It's real troubling. It's very troubling when this happens. What you've got in Congress right now are a few people trying to do right, and everyone else stepping on their toes because people like Cheney and McCain, all the war hawks, that liberals are supposed to oppose, by the way, as a matter of principle, opposing war hawkishness, are all on the side of the NSA. Do you people really want to agree with Dick fucking Cheney and John Lame McCain? John McLame, who looks like he could keel over at any time, who's about 1,000 years old. He's as old as the sands of time and still literally the reason he's a Christian is he actually remembers meeting Jesus. These are the sort, be judged by the company you keep. Right now, all of Obama's progressive fans, because a lot of the moderate Democrats have basically said they no longer care, a lot of these individuals, what they're doing is essentially saying that they agree with Dick Cheney and John McCain. It's really strange how politics makes such odd bedfellows. And yet they persist, and you still see them. They're saying, oh, well, I'm not afraid. I have nothing to hide. Neither do the foreign heads of state, but they still should be respected enough not to be wiretapped all the time. It's ridiculous. And I said it before. The principle is this. Number one, it's simply unconstitutional. Number two, it's unethical. At this point, the NSA has gone so far, you might as well just get rid of it entirely. And number three, it's a waste of money. I don't understand what possible benefit it has to our country when we're spending that many hundreds of billions of dollars, let's face it, that we've already spent, conducting surveillance on everyone when a very small fraction of these people might actually be involved in some sort of criminal or terrorist activity. By the way, the meaning of terrorist is still up in the air and is essentially whatever the government wants to define it as. There is no universal definition. You know, how do you determine terrorist? Well, they shot somebody, so they must be a terrorist because they were motivated by X, Y, or Z. It makes no sense. It's a waste of our time. The people haven't asked for it. What the people need to do now is not ask the government, but simply tell the government to fuck itself. What people should do is simply say, well, Massive strikes, that would work. Mass protests would work. If you had a couple million people show up in DC with signs, eventually it would get to the point where they would agree to abolish or at least severely reform the NSA, and it would tell Congress they need to get their act together. Obama has lied to the people long enough. Congress has been complicit long enough. It's not just Obama. Bush helped it along as well, as people will hopefully remember, because it was under him that all of this got started with the Patriot Act. Get rid of the Patriot Act, stop all the nonsense. People are no longer really afraid of terrorists. What they're afraid of is the government. And you can't blame them, because right now the government has a hell of a lot more ability to fuck up your life than any terrorist does. If someone mails you anthrax, you can go to the hospital. If the government decides you're a dissident and throws you in Gitmo without a trial or a lawyer, you're fucked. You're going to stay there till you die. That should be a humbling feeling for people, knowing that it is possible at any moment for you to simply get carted off because you accidentally, your IP address got linked with some dude in Abu Dhabi that's developing, chemical agents, and they just drag you in and start torturing you. And nobody will fucking hear from you again. As far as anyone else is concerned, you're just a missing person. It used to be people in the United States feared that and understood that it was at least a possibility that it would happen. And we fought fascists, and we fought communists, and we fought the Soviets, and we fought, all of these other groups that were doing these things to their own populations and said, that's wicked, that's evil, that's immoral, it's unethical. And now we're doing it too. It literally makes zero sense. People need to wake the fuck up and do something about it. Write letters to your Congress. The Congress has listened to people before. Everyone wanted SOPA, and something like 10 million people signed a web petition, and soon there was no support for SOPA because it was clear anyone that voted for it wouldn't get reelected. These people think with their wallets. Some people think with their brains, some people think with their genitals. Congress thinks with their wallets. They think about money constantly, and money and power. Well, if they're going to lose all their money and power because they get kicked out of office, they're not going to vote for this. They'll vote against it. They'll get rid of the NSA. They'll put pressure on Obama. They might try to get a lawsuit going through to the Supreme Court. Do it. Now, I've already contacted my representatives. I didn't need to contact Sanders because he's already against the NSA, basically. But Welsh and Leahy, of course I did. Do it. It doesn't take that much effort. It takes like 10 minutes of your time. Stop being lazy. Peace out.